Very few guys and gals that have ever come through here can really execute. I'm one of the few guys. I mean, I know how to fucking execute. But I'm not shy and timid about it, and I'm not polite, and, you know. And I don't really care what Stefan thinks of me. And if I cut Stefan, you know, you get off your fat fucking ass. You get back to Guernsey. You do this, that, and the other thing. And I want it done by Friday. Well, it's only Wednesday, Dan. It's going to take me half a day. You drive back. You drove up, right?
I drove up, yeah.
I don't give a fuck if you got to fucking swim back.
No, do I? Because I can do some thinking while I'm driving.
Exactly, yeah. But I mean, and you know, it's tough to do an Excel when you're driving. But so I don't give you the luxury of a buffer. I know everything's not like programming, but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, all my analogies are based on programming. Programmers are inherent liars. So, and you lie to cover yourself because you don't want to look a fool. You don't want to look bad. Because nobody really believes it's good to make mistakes. That's how you learn and grow. Nobody, especially a German. They don't believe that. But it's true. Making mistakes is learning. Now, you can't make the same mistake over and over again. With me, you can't make the same mistake twice. Okay? And so people are afraid to make it once because, you know, they think number two is coming. So, and there are some exceptions to the rules. You know, Mother Teresa, I gave some slack, but other than that, I don't give too much slack to people. And I know my son, he told our Chinese partners, I know my dad will fire me if I fuck up. Oh, no. He says, no, I know my dad will fire me. And my ex-wife, his mother, knows that I'll fire him. And so, and it just, you know, and that's the guillotine, that's, you know, the thing. He knows his neck's up there, and I'm sure he keeps looking up to see, you know, if it's dropped yet. But you need to be optimistic, but you have to be a realist. Brutally realistic with your people. And I am brutally realistic with my people. Here, personally, we put up a sign that I wanted to put up. I told them about it in December, and it took them until March to put up. And we haven't talked about this. It's because after the seminar, I'm going to talk about it with these guys. How in the fuck did it take us from Christmas Eve to March the 15th or whatever it finally got put up? Of course, I underestimated. We had to get planning permission and a bunch of other shit. Okay, I don't care. Put the fucking sign up, and then you let them tell us we got to take the fucking sign down. Ron LeGrand, as he says, I would rather ask for forgiveness than permission. But most people can't do that. You know? Yeah, it's like a golf course. I put the fucking golf course up, and then, you know, I had to go to court and spend money. But I mean, I would have never gotten planning permission for that golf course. Never. I wouldn't live long enough. So now they put me through the hurdles when I built this place, the pavilion. 3 of the council members are still council members 15 years later. And they made me pay the price for putting this son of a bitch up. I mean, I went through a lot of hurdles. They made me change the plans. We have 19 toilets in here. You know, we don't need 19 toilets. We got 19 toilets. We had to redesign the kitchen. The slope of the roof used to be flatter. And they decided that it should be 3 degrees more of this. And to make a long story short, 3 degrees turned into 75,000 pounds because that means the foundation had to be stronger because it supported more weight or some shit like that. And plus, it put us 5 weeks behind because then there was a steel shortage at the time. So we didn't, our poles or whatever weren't long enough. So I said, well, why don't we just weld fucking extensions on the poles? That was my alternative. They can't do that. I don't know why we couldn't do that. I still don't understand from a structural point of view why we couldn't weld an extra 3 feet or 5 feet, whatever it had to be. But for some reason we couldn't do it. And so I paid the price. You know, I paid my price for action because there's 3 guys that were still on the council, and you know that I sued individually to get my golf cart. Of course, they say that's not true. They say, you know.
And you didn't build this before getting permission, because from this they can tell you to tear it down again, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's one thing to plow under a golf course, but it's another thing to tear down a fucking building. So I waited to get planning permission. You're absolutely right about that. CEO's most important task: never stop becoming qualified for the job, continuing to learn. And that doesn't mean, you know, most of the seminars and the webcasts and that are a waste of time. They are. And but it's easier to do the seminar. Some seminars, I'm told, that because you can see them on the internet, it's easy. But I lose. There's something lost when you're not here in person. Although I may do a seminar, a webcast someday. Flywheel effect. When you start pushing a 10-ton metal flywheel, it takes lots of effort to make a single revolution, but less for the next 3. Momentum will start to carry the wheel forward itself. Same is true in business. It's tough and slow to build momentum and inertia, but before long, it starts spinning under its own force. After a while, multiple revolutions will create evolution. And it's always toughest in the beginning. You know, that shouldn't be any Einsteinian notion to you. But a lot of people that have never started a business are always complaining that it takes a long time. That's good because they're energetic in a hurry. And if you're not energetic in a hurry when you start something, then you're never going to be energetic in a hurry. So, and 25, use technology only after you have momentum, not to create it. Technology is simply an accelerator for momentum, not a creator of it. And again, getting back to too many people rely on the technology instead of structure following strategy. And some of the kids that come out of the schools, good or bad schools, that come out with technology degrees, they've been taught, I believe wrongly, that technology is the savior of the world, and it's not. It just isn't. Mankind is the savior of the world, if there's going to be any savior. Not technology, not some program or some, you know. And we depend, we're much too technology orientated, and we're much rely on technology. And it's just a tool. And you've heard me lament for a day plus now that it takes us longer to do stuff now, and we should be able to get it done a lot quicker. Building a great 26. Building a great company means building something worthy of lasting. Question: how do you know if your company is worthy of lasting? Answer: does it stand for something great or great to someone? eHarmony stands for greatness for someone, for the poor, sorry people. Not poor economically, because a lot of rich people use it too. But I mean, to make their quiet life of desperation something more than a quiet life of desperation. And but not too many products or services say that. So that means we have a proliferation of a lot of excess products and services that if they left the face of the earth today, it wouldn't matter. So if you're fortunate enough, blessed enough to find something that can't be done without, that's a big order though. Then you're destined for greatness. You're destined to be that legend that we talked about yesterday. And there's 6,000 mad scientists and demons looking for that thing. And there's 6,000 to 7,000 of them at DuPont, and there's GE, and all these big companies have the same thing, looking for that special thing. And that's why whenever something comes up, you know, that's potentially going to change the world, we're looking at a cancer diagnostic thing right now that could possibly change the world. You know. But there's so many of these deals that, you know, detect cancer, cure cancer. I mean, it takes years and years and years and years before the Federal Drug Administration or the equivalent thereof in the various countries to approve them. And the big pharmaceutical companies don't want these things to come out. For sure. They certainly don't. If I remember correctly, the average dying cancer patient spends $250,000 or $300,000 to stay alive the last year of life. And mostly that's insurance companies paying for that. But 20 when I'll wait till we see Rick Scott's picture, because I was going to say something about healthcare. Okay, 27, dream now and then, and they will come true. Dream now and then they will come true. We talked about that yesterday. Great companies do two things well: preserves core values and purpose, and two, changes operating practices, technologies, and culture as needed. Even the culture, even the impaler's culture, that change as needed. Summary: human talent is the currency of the new economy. Good is the enemy of the great. Time is more important than money. Be a hedgehog. Unswerving single-mindedness. Know who you want on your bus, in work and in life. Build something that is worthy and stands for something to someone, and take time to dream. During the 10-year period that you heard me talk about, I only thought one thing. I didn't think one thing. The irony of this is that when I think back, I don't know why I stopped that after 10 years. I don't. I can't, I have no thought, or a day or a morning I woke up, I'm tired of this shit. I don't know why, but it was almost 10 years to the day. I don't know why. I just don't know why, but it was 10 years almost to the day that I just lived, breathed, ate, and interesting. Now, going forward, I want you to ask yourself, what time is it?
10%.
Okay. Coffee goes to be in a minute. Going forward, I want you, everything we talk about, or our list, is I want you to, how does this apply to me? And how do I take direct action? How do I take this, apply it to me, or how does it apply to me, and then take direct action? Because you're not interested, Michael's not interested in how it affects Stefan, and vice versa. So just be focused. It's you. You. I want you to be, most Germans are self-centered anyway, but I want you to be self-centered. I don't want you to think about anybody else. The Germans don't give a fuck about the French. They don't give a shit about the Spaniards, and they sure shit don't give a shit about the English. They give a shit about themselves. And the Bavarian brutes, as I used to call them, Siemens loved that. Bavarian brutes, oh, they love that. Bavarian brutes don't give a shit about the Northern. We just don't. It's that simple. So let's be realistic with one another. Let's be honest and candor. Have candor with one another. Just think about your goddamn self. About everything we talk about now. This is what we're going to start plowing through. And the first thing we're going to plow through, I'll just read them again. 1, creating your own personal foundation, new rules, focus on the ends, not the means, get comfortable, passion beyond common sense. Number 2, clarify your vision. Number 3, building the perception. Number 4, creating your dream team. Number 5, your quantum action plan, including growth, financing, internal growth, working capital, acquisition, and external growth. Number 6, pay yourself, directors, employees first. And number 7, creating an exit strategy. Okay, new rules. As I've said, and you should have ascertained by now, if you have some modicum of brains, is that there aren't any. The only rules I have, if it's moral, ethical, legal. That's it. Then there's some fine lines. What's moral? What's not moral? Okay. What's ethical? What's not ethical? So the bottom line is it legal? And then there's fine lines whether it's legal or not. Because some things you can do in, for example, Nigeria are not legal in Britain. Okay? But generally speaking, that's my framework. And the morality issues and ethical issues rest with you as an individual. Now, in companies, fairly large companies, they rest with the board. And I'm not a common consensus. I'm not really. I'll listen to everybody, and then I'll make a decision.
Most things are legal almost anywhere in the world. If you want to drive fast, you drive on German autobahns.
Yeah.
If you want to take drugs, you may want to go to Amsterdam. If you want to have a secret bank account nobody knows about, you live where I live, for example, or you live in Malta, and it's completely legal to have offshore bank accounts. However, if you live here or if you're a US citizen, it may not be legal.
Correct.
So it all depends, how far you're happy to go to make the things you want to do legal.
Correct, correct. As I said earlier, Clint Eastwood says, tomorrow is guaranteed to no one. Yet, we have a whole generation, I see, especially, I haven't taught university in a few years, but it's like life is guaranteed to them. It's like they're entitled. And I talked to, some, my buddy is a psychiatrist, and I talked to some educators at University of California, Berkeley, UCLA, University of Southern California, NYU, and he says the kids that are coming up today feel entitled. My daughter certainly feels entitled. I didn't ask to be born into a rich family. And like I said, well, see, all my kids, I'm not leaving them any money. So I solved that. I said, well, good. I'm glad you said that, Kelly, because I'm not leaving you a fucking dime. Are you happy now? You feel, so you can go hug all the fucking trees you want. Now, Bill Gates, he's still leaving each kid $10 million, which by his standards is no money. But they feel entitled. And we've been privileged. The few young children and kids that have come through here haven't been entitled. They haven't. We had two brothers from England that paid out of their own trust funds, their own money to come here. And unfortunately, their father committed suicide, put his plane in the ground, and nobody knows exactly why he did that. But so life isn't guaranteed. Yes, Stefan.
Do you feel your children or somebody else's can earn their entitlement? So, for example, you say nothing is for free, and I will not give you any money just because you are my child.
Correct.
Would you be happy to say, look, if your daughter makes X in New York, you are happy to give her the same amount to accelerate her growth, and say, look, if you find a job yourself to earn 100,000, I'm quite happy to top that up to make it 200 because I know you have, earned something.
Yes.
I
Well, you do this, and I got you a new car. My son who graduated with his MBA, I got him a new car when he graduated, and so I do things like that. But they have to earn it. They have to earn it. They're certainly not trust fund babies, where they were raised in California. There were a lot of trust fund babies around. Their parents just, a lot of parents give their kids money just to get rid of them. We're in New York. You go live in Hollywood with all the other flakes here. And in line with what Stefan said, life responds to deserve, not need. You deserve this because you did this. There's a pay price that you got in return. For every good action, you get this. And I recommended to one of my children that wasn't sure what they wanted to do. Well, why don't you do, not the Peace Corps, but go volunteer for a year or two, Go with the Salvation Army or the Red Cross or do something, good with your life. They didn't like that idea because they paid no money. So, my daughter doesn't want to be anything but a manager. She figures she ought to be a manager right away. A manager of what? We don't know yet. But a manager. And whoever says money can't buy happiness doesn't know where to shop. Because I can change everybody's life if I gave everybody in this room 100 million pounds gifted. Okay? It would change your lives. There's no question about it. Some lives more than others. And some of you, within 5 years, it'll be gone. Because a fool and his money are easily separated. And as smart as you excelling motherfuckers are, I could surreptitiously put guys... There's these stupid Germans that each got 100 million pounds. I'll give a billion pounds to the one that can separate them from their money the quickest. and they would be on you like stink on shit. And no matter how careful you were, no matter how much you excelled it, they would get your money. There are guys that smart. In fact, most con artists are really gifted. You know, they're smart. They come up with all these schemes. And many of the internet people are con artists, scam artists. They're gifted. And he and I know some of them. This is an often used thing, the new rules, thinking outside the box, and everybody says it. And it's an easy thing. You can't connect the dots inside the box. You got to go outside the box, and it's a star. I'm not going to go through the exercise. But I've had some smart people that even know that don't know how to do it. We've had some smart people, but I'm not going to waste the time. But it's basically, you got to go outside the box with lines, like these straight lines without lifting your pen. And that's how you make a star, and it connects a 5-point star. But it's an often used cliche to think outside the box, but very few people think outside the box. And in the 21st century, you got to think outside the box. And it's not something that inherently you have bred into you. I mean, you have to learn it through experience. Now, I used to have this in 2 slides. Manslaughter and manslaughter are all the same letters. But I could just have this on a slide, and not that many people see manslaughter. And I've looked at it so many thousands of times. I mean, I can't help but see it now. But I mean, you don't. And that's why when I come into organizations, I can sit and I can look at your deal. And by the way, for those that want to spend private time with me, you got to start. And by the way, I'm not running you off on Saturday morning. Mainly for 2 reasons. Number 1, I don't do that anymore. And number 2, we're going to have people coming late, so I'm going to be here extended. So if you don't want to leave Saturday morning, you still got stuff you want to talk to me about, I'm around. Okay. But anyway, start making, so if you want to talk to me, we have private time to talk, schedule it through film. Anyway, I can come in and look at your deal, and you've been looking at this stuff for years. And I'll look at it in 5 minutes or no more than 20 minutes. And I'll ask you questions you never thought of. How is that possible?
You saw so much.
Well, that's one. Okay. But I mean, you spent how long have you been doing what you're doing?
5 years, 6 years.
Okay. And you're doing it all day, every day?
Part-time.
Well, what do you do the rest of the time?
Family.
Okay, well, I don't mean that. I mean, but business, that's all you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so you're looking at it 1,000 times more than I did.
Of course.
Or 10,000 times. But I can still see things, and it's not just because I've done it, because I'm not a property expert. I know a lot about property, and I'm not a property expert, okay? Probably because I think it's demeaning. I think property is demeaning because it doesn't take any great gift to make money doing it, as I've already said ad nauseum. But I can look at something because it's the old story. You're so close to the forest you can't see the trees. And you don't have people around you that are smart enough. In some cases, they don't want to tell you because they're afraid to make you look stupid. Most times, I can find out more about the business by talking to the people that you work with or work for you than I can from the owner. Because either you don't want to see it, you've got blinders on. Because if you take a look at it, you realize, and you take an honest, hard, candid, objective look at it, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. So you're myopic, okay? Either that or you're stupid, or a combination of the two. Because you're there, it's like people that have 15-year marriages or 7-year marriages. I've got 7 years invested in him or her. I can't get a divorce. I got the children. All the bullshit. You've heard all the bullshit, right? I assume that the same line of bullshit exists in Germany. Okay. Yes, in your heart, if you had it to do over again, you'd be fucking adios. Okay? And in some cases, if you got no morality, fuck the kids. Let them make for themselves. You know, just adios. You read about it all the time. Guy goes off to work and never comes back again. Does that happen in Germany? Yeah. Okay. Because they just say, I've had it. That's it. So I look at your deal and I pierce through and I go, Jesus Christ, and I say, what about this, what about that? You don't know. And like I told you, most businesses that come to you are better off starting from scratch. Because you can start off clean. That's a big emotional jump, though. I mean, huge. Very, very, very few people have ever done that have come to here. A few have. Like the guy with the phone. If you don't have my phone number, fuck you. You know? He's an exception. Des is an exception. He married one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life from Warsaw. A Polish girl. I remember we met her in Warsaw. He had already met her, and we went to some little cafe, and we're sitting in the back of the cafe. I said, why are we sitting back at the sunny day? And I don't like to sit in the sun. It's a sunny day, you know, all the people walking up and down the street. And she says, oh, if my uncle sees me, he will kill us. What? She says, yes. She says, my father is working in the mine someplace, and I'm living with my uncle, and my uncle will kill me if I see a non-Catholic, non-Polish, non-this, that, and the other thing. Well, this is fine, Des. You invite me here for lunch, but he wound up getting married, and they have a kid, and everything worked out fine. So Des is a smart guy. So, but I look at these things, and of course that's why people bring me in, because I can look at things and shortcut things. But a lot of the shortcuts that I think of, not a lot, but some of the shortcuts you've already thought of, but they're too emotionally painful to do. This is a classic. I'm going to start using them as a classic example of this. Okay. Intellectually, he understands. Not everything intellectually, because he's one of the guys that may be too smart for his own good. But they're too emotionally painful. You can't do it. You can't do it. It's like in the old days when it was considered not politically correct to have a mentally challenged child, a retarded child. So you kept them in the background. You kept them in a closet someplace. And in the old days, you kept them chained to a bed or something like that. Well, now we're past that. So now it's more politically accepted, politically corrected. No, that you try to help and do whatever you can for that child. It's the same with your business and your business relationships. You know, some people just can't make the emotional cut. So they actually see, they can look long enough and they can see it's man's laughter and not man's slaughter. But they're happy where they are. And I told you when we first started, irrespective of what you think, you're comfortable where you are. More or less comfortable. You're comfortable. Your comfort level was enough to want to expand outside your comfort zone to come here. But now the real test will be what you do with it once you leave here. That will be the test. Whether you do anything or not. And again, when we have our conference calls, I'll be able to tell in 30 seconds if you're making progress. 30 seconds.
How long is the conference call scheduled after we leave?
Yours are short. You don't have to worry about it. I already got yours figured out. And even though I'm a 17th, 18th century manager, you can't rule by edict anymore. You have to lead by persuasion. But unfortunately, I'm a very persuasive guy. I'm a great salesman. So I can normally convince people to do the right thing. Not always, but normally. You know, vast majority. When I say not always, 70, 80, 90% of the time I can convince. Because pretty soon, it becomes so intuitively obvious to you that this is the right thing, the right course of action for you, that what you're saying is if you don't do the right course of action, even if it's emotionally hard for you, that, why are you in business, Why are you in business? And I already said that, most people that come to Europe have just bought themselves a job.